Good afternoon, Breanna. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jocelyn. How are you?
I am so good, and I'm thrilled that you're here to join me for Confidence Conversations.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This is such an honor. I love your show, and so I just really appreciate the opportunity.
So, you know how we get down. We're going to start asking you, what does confidence mean to you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm ready for this. So, for me, my focus is really about confidence in the workplace setting. So, I call it office confidence. And office confidence to me is really about being unapologetically yourself at work, taking opportunities, yourself and not always waiting for people to come to you to give you things to do, but really knowing your value, your worth, and again being unapologetic about how you show up to be able to assert that worth and that value that you bring to the spaces that you're in.
That's so key, right? Because I think in office settings, we tend to shrink ourselves because we don't want to upset anybody. We don't want to come off as abrasive, especially as women. So I want to know, what was your journey to actually get to a place where you could advocate for yourself and speak for yourself and have that office confidence, as you call it?
Yeah, it's so interesting because, well, it's interesting to me, right? But like it's this idea of that, when I started my career journey, it was really kind of like a strange start, if you will. I graduated from college the same week that I graduated from college. I found out that I was expecting a child, and so everything that I wanted to do really changed from what my plan was to having to do this new thing. And so when I started to go to self-sufficiency offices because I wanted to, not just be a person that, just relied on my family, but was able to do things for myself.
Mhm.
I realized that the way that people were talking to me, they looked at my left hand first to see that I wasn't married at the time and were just so rude. And I looked around and was like, I cannot be the only one who does not want to be here, that has a desire to do more for, myself and, for my family, in the making. And it really sent me on this journey to find positions and opportunities for me to be able to help other people along with myself to really express well your inherent value and be able to figure out what your core strengths were and how it is that how do I show up when I'm at my best. And so along my journey, I've just found different opportunities that were well supported by leaders who wanted me to be able to speak up. I don't think that I ever really asked, like, can I speak up or can I share something.
Yeah.
And so sadly, I don't really know that I have a secret formula to it so much as just
Yeah.
like, I know, and I am a believer, and I do just believe that I was put on this earth to be able to walk in the fullness of who I was created to be, and
Right.
taking that power, into social settings. It's not where it stopped. It was also going into work and just saying, I think I can make this place better. So I'm just going to be bold and raise my hand and share my thoughts or my ideas. And a lot of times it was well received, and so it gave me the confidence to kind of keep going. That more often than not, that people were interested in my perspective or wanted to hear what I had to say, and that gave me more confidence to keep sharing.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that you say, right? I think a lot of times we have this notion in our heads that we've completely contrived on our own, that people aren't going to be interested in what we have to say, or that we're going to sound silly or stupid. And it's usually the opposite. You're in the room to show up. People want to hear what you have to say. And so it actually usually is not even just well received, but welcomed and anticipated about what it is that you have to say, your opinion. That's why you're in the room. So I'm glad that you were able to find it within yourself to actually say, hey, I have an opinion, this is why I'm taking a seat at this table.
For sure. And it's so interesting because sometimes like the tactic is like, I don't know, maybe I'm new, so I just got this weird question. And it's like,
Right.
oh, we didn't think about that at all. Thank you so much. And then there's
Mhm.
that confidence that grows because you played the I'm new card, or it's like the I'm sorry, I showed up late. Can you reframe? Because I don't understand. Even if you have to use a tactic like that just to be able to kind of raise your hand and say, it's a silly question, but here's the idea. It's so amazing to see how people respond to that. Because usually, you being the bold one to step up and ask the question or say the thing almost unlocks the door for others to say, oh, you know what? Jocelyn makes a really great point. I actually was thinking the same thing, and I don't like this, or this is strange, or can we try something new? So really, sometimes you being scared but bold at the same time allows other people to also be able to unleash their, their creativity and their questions as well.
Yeah, we always love for someone to pave the way for us. So I know that that's so true, right? It feels more comfortable when you have someone else who's in that space, especially when you're able to add a little humility to it, especially when you are feeling nervous. That just humanizes that whole experience. You're able to come forth and say, hey, I'm not exactly sure, but here's my opinion. And I actually think that people respect you even more for that, because you're coming to it from an aspect of, I don't know all of the answers, but I'm still here for a reason and I want to contribute. People really do value that. And I know that you're doing a lot of that work helping all of your clients at the refining company. So tell me how that came to be.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So the refining company is, what are we, like 7 months old now? Like, it's still very, very new, and I'm so excited about it. And really, I've been in the learning and development space for, like, formally, I would say probably for the past 2.5 years. But over my career, I've always been the person who's doing trainings and leading experiences, whether it be like a new hire orientation or something that puts me in front of a room to be able to speak to other people. So over the last couple of years in my formal role, I've been learning a lot about the psychological safety aspects and the components that really matter to how do we help leaders create better environments for their employees. And when I would share, on my LinkedIn or my, Instagram, or, just with people, in real life, like, hey, I'm doing this really cool work, I'm really excited, I would have people say, wow, my company's not doing that. Like, I'd love to go to that class. I'd love to have that experience. And it got me to thinking about, well, maybe I should just make it available then. And so I started this organization to be able to offer, low cost learning and development experiences and solutions for people that are not always able to have those kinds of, personal branding or, strength-based training at their company. Because what I've come to find is that a lot of companies don't really value learning and development as much as they say that they do. If they do value it, it's for like that upper echelon of people. Maybe we'll choose 10 people.
The C-suite, or, the top performers in a certain department.
Yeah. And they'll pick people out and say, we'll take these ones, but there's so many more people than that. And so, yeah, I started the refining company to be able to just avail myself to those who are interested in learning, and especially learning about how to show up more confidently at work so that they can really get those opportunities thereafter, and really just have a better sense of career well-being overall.
I love that. And I like the idea of refining, right? Because we already have everything that we need, but it's about refining the traits, the characteristics, the tools, the skill sets that we already have, and learning how to use them and how we can really navigate the workplace. I think a lot of times we discount the tools and the skills that we have because we think that because we learned them maybe in a different environment that they don't apply here. But our skills are transferable. That's the really awesome thing. And so we have to be able to say, I may not have done it in this context, but here's how I can refine what I'm doing to be able to get there. But you touched on one thing I think is really interesting, and I'd love for you to go into more detail about psychological safety in the workplace, and especially amongst leaders. How can leaders create, well, first of all, let's go into what is psychological safety, but then how can leaders foster a better sense of it in the work environment?
Yeah, so I think there's many different definitions about what psychological safety is, but for me, it goes back to the idea of I, as an individual, am feeling welcomed in the space that I am in, and that it is okay. And not just okay, but it is welcomed for me to be able to share my thoughts and my perspective. It is okay for me to be able to raise my hand and say, we're not going the right direction, or I have a question about this. And so it's really just this idea that, combined with my ability to speak up and there being accountability, that I feel that I can move freely about the cabin in this space to be able to contribute. And there's a lot of different theories, about it. One of my favorites is by Timothy Clark, who talks about the 4 stages of psychological safety. And the first one is this belonging safety, this idea that just me on the face of who it is that I am welcomed in this space. And what I think is really important is that leaders do not just talk about, well, bring your whole self to work, but they really honor that. And the way that they can honor that really well is to be able to move from like a conventional approach to development to a strength-based approach to development. And the difference is this: conventional approaches to development say, hey, Jocelyn, I think you're awesome, but here's a list of all of the things that you're not doing well. Let's spend time working on these things. Strength-based development says, hey, Jocelyn, you're doing awesome in this area. Help me understand, as your leader, what environment I need to create for you so that you could be like this more often. And so that idea of, wow, you really value me, the way that I show up. I'm a multitasker. I want to have my hands in lots of different things, and you allow me to do that. Or I'm a very reserved person. I'm a one thing at a time kind of person, and you're okay with that as well. And so as leaders, I think the most important thing is to recognize how the systems that we're, basing merit on, the systems that we are doing our performance evaluations on, are really built to a conventional approach versus strength-based approach, and then be able to shift that. Because in this season, and I won't call it a season, in this heightened awareness of equity, inclusion, and diversity, and how important these things are, our strength-based approach is the one that gets us to the most equitable outcomes. I want to give you what you need to be able to be your best. And conventional doesn't do that, but strength-based does. And if our leaders start paying attention to that, then they can really support an environment that gives a really, really great idea of what psychologically safe spaces feel like at work, which ultimately really help to develop our overall sense of career well-being.
Yeah, I like what you said there. And I think you kind of, in so many words, brought up the idea of equity versus equality, and how that's important to facilitate in the workplace. Equity is giving every person what they need to bring them up to the same level, whereas equality is just giving everyone the same thing. And so that's also kind of the 2 sides of the coin that you've just mentioned. Equity is, I respect this person as they are, as they're showing up, and in order to have them thrive in this environment, in this workplace, and then be able to contribute as much as they can, in their capacity, given their skill sets, this is what I need to do as a leader. And I think it's so important that when we're thinking about growing companies and scaling companies, we don't just throw labels like diversity and inclusion around, but we really stay true to them and understand what it means. Because diversity, sure, is, religion, creed, race, gender, those things, but it also is a diversity of skill sets, a diversity of backgrounds, and understanding how different team members show up and how they are good at communicating their work, how they can, communicate certain ideas. How can this person be valuable to a client? Because everyone has their strength. And I think that we need to understand that piece, because no one's perfect, but we all have something that we do very, very well. So being able to uncover that and then foster that and grow that seed is so crucial.
Yeah. And it really starts with, or it can start with, not waiting for our leaders to come to us and ask that, but for us to do the research ourselves, to ask ourselves some critical questions and say, what do I, like, while I'm doing it, think, when do I get to have this opportunity again? Right? Like, that is an indicator of, talent, of like, oh, I really love this thing. And when I'm able to say, hey, you know what, my boss, Jocelyn, I really love doing X, Y, and Z. what opportunities exist for me to be able to do more of this? Right? Like, and less of this. It's important for us to find the language to be able to use with our leaders to be able to say that, because they're not always going to come to us first. But again, that's that part of office competence. Say, I know who I am, I know what I do well, and I want to do more of that. And then finding the places within our workplace that allow us to be able to do that.
Right. And I know that that's probably something that's very easy for the extroverts or those who have a more innate sense of confidence. But I want to know your tips and tools to empower some people who may be a little more introverted or reserved. How do they go and facilitate that conversation? What tips do you have there?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, because I think people are like, I can't be like Breanna, right? I can't be like out here and like ready for everything. And I'm like a fire breathing marshmallow. Like, I'm really scared of a lot of things, but somehow I'm just like,
Just gotta go. You have to do it. Do it afraid.
Exactly. But still, I think that what's important to do, I think research is really important to be able to say, like, I'm going to script out what this conversation is. I'm not, while extroverts are easy or able to go like kind of impromptu conversations off the cuff and say, hey, you know what I was thinking today? But for those who are more reserved, take time to practice, to write down, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I would like to do. Pause here for their response, right? Like, whatever it is that you need, but take the time to practice what it is that you want. Find allies in the workplace who believe or have seen you do really, really great work, who can help you in that conversation. It doesn't always have to be a private one-on-one conversation. It can be, like, hey, Jocelyn, like, I know we work together a lot on this project and you seem to have a really good relationship with our leader. I'd love to have like a quick, meeting with the three of us just to kind of bring up some ideas about, how you might see me, working with you on another project that I really enjoy, right? It doesn't have to be this formal, conversation. It can be really informal as well. And so I think just taking the time to research, what is it that I want to say? How is it that I'm going to say it, and who can I have kind of go with me to have this conversation can be really powerful to help you feel most prepared as a person who is a little bit more reserved or uncomfortable even having conversations about what I want to do. And the last thing that I'll add is that it's always great. Leaders love to hear, how does this contribute to the bottom line? What's the solution of, if I want to spend more of my time doing ABC and less time doing, XYZ, this will actually be better for us because I find myself moving faster through these tasks so I can do more of them. Where I struggle here and it's not really of interest, I'd love to be able to, I've noticed that, Toby really likes this work. Is it possible for us to kind of shift around, me having more of what he does and him having more of what I do? So being creative with giving some solutions and options can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, I love that suggestion because it also shows that you are an advocate, not just for yourself, but for other people in the organization as well, which is one of the key things we look for in leaders, is how well do you advocate? How can you, take a problem that you see and then put all of the pieces into the right space? And so that is something that you just brought up very, very eloquently. But I want to know how you got to this point, because I know you mentioned before navigating the space, becoming a mom, and having the struggle of not being treated the way that you wanted to. Were you able to just speak out immediately, or did you have to do any sort of internal work or searching to say, you know what, I have a voice and I'm going to speak up for myself and I'm going to pave my own way?
Yeah, I think more of the latter. Like, I think that I really did, I do a lot of, clearly I'm long-winded, right? I do a lot of like reflecting to be able to say, like, well, who do I want to be and how do I want to show up? I realized early on, especially having a child early, like, I will never, well, I don't want to say never, but it would be a while before I was in a position to just like not work at all. And so I made a decision to say, if I'm going to have to work, I want to work in places that I enjoy, that value me, and that give me the opportunity to be my best self every single day. And so this journey has really been about like, I've got my like non-negotiables with, you know, where it is that I work and what it is that's allowed or not allowed. And every time I was able to transition my career, it was, oh, this seems like a really great place to be. Let me go to the interview and let me ask them really specific questions to see if you fit my bill. And if
Right.
not, then thank you so much. This was great. I'm just going to go find somewhere else to be. And that takes a level of confidence of like, I like this job, but I don't have to be here. I know that I will always be gainfully employed because I have, you know, skills that will allow me even to like go like, you know, swipe groceries at the market, right? Like, so I know that I'll never not be employed, but I think it really just was a decision that I made to say, these are some things that if I'm going to spend at least 40 hours a week in the same,
A third of our lives, right? 8
right?
hours, we have 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
8 hours is a third of that. So a third of our lives.
Absolutely. That is so, thank you for that reminder. It's like, if I'm going to spend a third of my life in this workplace, it's gotta be wonderful. It's gotta be a place that I say, I want to be here. And so it really just started with me just having conversations with myself to be able to say, what do you want to be able to do? It also had to do with, I've got a really strong just network of really wonderful, you know, women and men that are around me that I think are successful at work, and watching them and talking to them and saying, how, like, what does work mean to you? What do you get to do? What is this work like? It was me on LinkedIn starting to understand like what titles meant, where you see somebody's title and then you read down and say, I didn't think about that at all. Like, so really just understanding, like, let me put together my grocery list of the things that are important to me and then set off on a journey to go find the places that allow me to do that thing, which really helps me to kind of land in a place that allows me to do what it is that I want to do during the workday, during my 9 to 5, but then also my 5 to 9, of having, you know, the refining company as well. But it did take some time to be able to do some soul searching and having a lot of conversations with others to say if these were the right places for me to be able to stay and operate.
You know, we come up with lists for the ideal partner that we want and for the house that we move into. We have lists for everything, but it's so interesting that usually people don't create lists for their job. They look for, you know, the job description. Sometimes we're choosy about the title and we look at the salary. And that usually is where it ends for a lot of people. And so I love that you are very, very intentional and specific and go in with your non-negotiables, because you have to understand, what environments do I like? How do I thrive? What's going to facilitate my growth as a human being? Because our environments empower us or they drain the life out of us. And so looking for a company whose culture matches with your values as a human being is so important. And so creating that list, like you said, before you're even going into those interviews, and knowing, what are my non-negotiables? What am I, Jocelyn Michelle, not willing to give up before we even facilitate this conversation, is invaluable, and it's paramount to making sure that your environment where you're going to spend a third of your life is aligned and it's feeding your soul rather than eating away at you. And so thank you so much for bringing that up, because we have to be confident enough to know that I may have to pass up on a good opportunity pay wise. But something for me is further down the road. And I think the reason why we're not as picky with work as we are with men or with homes or whatever is because we think that nothing else is going to come, and we're existing in this space of like a lack mindset, thinking that if I don't take this, I'm not going to get another opportunity. If I don't take this, I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. But we also have to look at, how do I provide for myself as a human? Because the decisions that we make impact us forever. And it seems really dire, but it's more serious than we think. And we have to be intentional about the spaces that we allow ourselves into and the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. And if I could add to that, I mean, and I made some bad, can I say that I've made some bad like career choices? Like
Same, yeah.
possibly, but I will say that, so let's see, I was working for an organization that I started a job that I loved in 2016. I got married in 2017, and my husband relocated to an area about 3 hours away. And I was like, I love my job. Like I have a plan here. I love you. So I would visit every weekend, and I did not move, Jocelyn, until December 2018. So a whole year after I got married, because I was like, the peace that I feel about this location and about what I'm doing in my career really matters to me. And I know that if I move right now, there's a possibility that I might go crazy. Be like, it's not the right move for me.
Right.
So I need to wait. But then also, and I feel like I say that as a way to say, like, yeah, you made a good choice to like be away from your husband for a year. But then now my more like enlightened self says, but was that the right choice? Because was it your fear of you being able to go outside of that company to be able to find a new opportunity that stops you from being able to say that my skills are good enough for me to be able to move on to a new opportunity like sooner? And so I go back and forth with that. And it depends on who I'm talking to say, oh, it was a great choice because I knew what my value was and I wanted to be in this place. And the other side says, but you were so scared that you didn't move. So you got to be able to make the moves. And so depending on the day, it'll be a toss up about how I feel. But I think ultimately what I do like to land on is I knew what I wanted for my career. I knew what organization I wanted to be at. I knew what I wanted to be paid. And I knew how it is that I wanted to feel when I started my day and when I ended, when I ended my day. And so I waited for the opportunity and kept, making the connections and having the experiences that allowed me to be able to get ultimately to the place that I wanted to be, which gave me the confidence then to launch the refining company. So it really was a good choice for me to stay behind and to wait. But I do want to encourage those too of like, don't stay away from your family for a year if that's not really, what's your heart song. But it is really important to think about, what are these non-negotiables? What are the things that will make me, walk away or make me move? Because since then I've had a new position, and we have relocated again. And I left a job that I really, really loved. But again, looking at how it is that I was being treated after a while versus what it is that I know that I bring to the table, my office confidence was pinging to say, this is not the place for me anymore. So what's good in one season does not necessarily translate and transfer to the next season. And so I think that's okay too, to really think about that and say, this was great and it served its purpose. And now that it's served its purpose, I'm ready to expand my horizons and to move forward. And so I hope that people, think about that too, that it's okay to have one thing in one season and a new thing in the next season and love it just as much as you loved the old thing before.
One of the crazy things about life changes is that we get so afraid before they happen. But if we allow ourselves to go with the moment, the best really is always next. If we allow ourselves to go through that. And sometimes it's hard. There's a grieving period, whether it's a job or a loss of a relationship or, being in close proximity to someone. But the best really is always next, and we can't fear what's ahead. But one of the things that I actually admire about you waiting behind is not succumbing to the pressure to move. I think that a lot of times as women, we feel like we have to do something, we have to act and make sure that everything's okay and put all of the pieces together. Otherwise, someone's going to be displeased with us. And so I actually admire you for not moving in a space of pressure and fear, because I actually think we make really bad decisions out of that place. And so waiting a while until, even if there's a difference between being like, I'm uncomfortable with this change, but I'm going to do it anyway, versus I am feeling compelled to move because I have to keep certain ducks in a row and I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't move, because that's acting from a place of compulsion and being impulsive. And so I think it's very important to wait to move until we're aligned. And so however you get aligned, whether you're praying, meditating, just taking time to yourself to think, it's so important to make sure that you are very clear-headed when you're making huge life decisions.
Absolutely. And it makes all the difference, because when I finally found that position and was ready to go, when you talk about office confidence. Like I walked in that place like, listen here, like I am ready to do all the things, and was able to impact change, whether it be in, a quick 15-minute meeting with someone who had like never heard my perspective before, or, day-long trainings that I had the opportunity to, impart wisdom and knowledge and facilitate conversations for, 300 people at a time. The feedback that I got about like, wow, like we really needed you here, like you're here at the right time. Like there were so many things that I was like, universe, thank you so much for aligning in such a way that this was a good move for me. And again, when we have the opportunity to be fully engaged at work and we are aligned with our purpose and our passion, we just shine on a level that is just so brilliant. And literally, and I think about, the refining company, and my little logo is like a little diamond, and I think about like the brilliance of diamonds, honestly, like how their clarity is cut. And I'm just like, when we shine these things up, when we really have an opportunity to say, I'm in my best, space, I'm feeling the most like prepared and honored and wonderful, like the way that we shine and the way that people are able to see us and we see ourselves is incredible. And so I really do seek to like help people to find that and to see that. And I had someone ask me like, why do you have so much energy? Like, where does that come from? I was like, well, first, I don't drink coffee. It's not about that. It's about the fact that like I see the world. And I gave this person this example of A Wrinkle in Time, where, and I can't remember all the characters, but I know that one of them has these glasses that she puts on her eyes, and like it sees a totally different reality. That's how I exist. That I see you, Jocelyn, like shining like your absolute best. So I'm like, like you don't see it, like let's do it. And so yeah. I use my energy and my passion for, the world that I see to like bring people along and say, if you look in my same like, like view, if you can come stand and see where I'm standing, then you can too experience this in such a way that makes you just as excited for Friday, or as excited for Monday as you are for Friday. And right. That's where strength-based like development comes from, is people saying, whew, that was a difficult week, but I'm excited about what I did, so I want to get to a new one. Like we do deserve to rest, yes, but there's this mindset shift that happens when it's like, I'm excited to go back to the office and do the things because I know that I'm doing the things that I love the most.
I love what you said about, the goggles or the lens, because I think it really is a skill set. I didn't notice that other people didn't see themselves like that, because I think oftentimes we look at people, it sounds like you're kind of similar in this, like, I see the best, highest version of you, truly. And when I'm talking to you, I'm getting a sense of your skills, what you're good at, how you can show up in like your fullest potential. And so when we're looking at people, I'm not seeing you as you see yourself, or as you're showing up today, or in the position that you are in today. I'm seeing like where you can go and like where you can be. And I wish that more people saw themselves in that light. So I want to get a tip from you. What advice do you have to help people see the highest versions of themselves?
Yeah, I'm going to say drop the just. And let me explain that. Well, I'm just the administrative assistant. Well, I just started here. I'm just the janitor, right? Like you are the administrative assistant. And without you, the president will not have a schedule that is clear and concise. You are new, and without your perspective, your fresh eyes, we are unable to see the things that we have been overlooking for so long because it's just a part of our culture. You are the janitor. Without you cleaning these spaces at night when we are sleeping, people will arrive in the morning and get sick, right? Like drop the just. Yeah. Take a moment to really realize how your work is connected to the bigger picture. People struggle when they cannot see the fact that their work matters to like the whole thing. So if I'm in the basement pushing the button, that's my job, I'm just pushing the button, I don't realize that me pushing this button is powering the city because I don't have any windows down here. And so what I encourage people to do is, drop the just and do the research for yourself to say, where does this line go? If I pull the thread, I unraveled the whole sleeve to the dress. Like I didn't realize
it's just a single thread, right? A single thread. As the power to unravel the whole thing.
Absolutely. It's like, I didn't realize that I was that thread. I thought that I was the button just hanging on for dear life. It's like, no, 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 no. I am the thread that holds on the button, that does the thing. Like,
you're the button that's powering the whole thing, not just a button.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I just tell people to drop the just. Like, I just do the research on yourself to figure out, like, what is it that I do? And if you don't know and you're just like, well, literally, I do just push this button, I have no idea what it's for, then ask someone, what does this do? Like, start learning the ins and outs and the mechanics of the thing. Yeah, to start understanding, like, oh, okay, this is how I fit into this space. Because what's really interesting is that when people have the opportunity to work like in their strength zone, and they're like, I'm doing the thing that I do well, they're like 6 times as likely to be engaged in their job. And so if you're struggling and you're feeling pretty disengaged, I would just encourage you to like start asking questions, like, help me understand, if I wasn't here, what would happen? Oh, we backfill your position. Well, hold on. That means that the position is valuable. So help me understand, what does this position do? How does it fit into the grand scheme of things? Super, super important that when we start learning what it is that we are here for, or what it is that we do within a role, that we start to see things differently, and then can start infusing this level of, energy or interest into it, or say, you know what, I don't want to be the person that pushes the button all the time. I want to see that the button is, that the light is working. So then we could start doing the work to say, then how do I get out of the basement to get to the higher level, to be able to be where the windows are, to see the I want to see. So yeah, that's just kind of my thought about that.
I think it's all about being content, but not complacent, right? And knowing exactly who we are, the value that we have, and believing from our heart of heart that we're valuable, because we all are. Like, I don't think people realize like how much they can change the world, or how much, just hearing your story or hearing their story, right? We kind of think, oh, my life is just, like you said, I just go to work and pick up the kids and go home. And people don't realize there's power in your story of how you pick up the kids and how you find the strength to go from place to place day by day will empower someone who doesn't have the ability to even get out of bed in the morning. And so I think it's so important for people to realize how valuable and invaluable, how crucial they are to society, to the world, even if they don't feel like it, and how much value they could bring, or how much joy and positivity they could bring if they come out of their shells, drop the just, like you just said, and be in their power.
Yeah. Jen Sincero, who wrote the book You're a Badass, she has like all these other ones too, and one of them is like You're a Badass Every Day. So it's like these like little little nuggets, and I love them. And one of the things she says in there is like, why settle for fine when fabulous is on the menu? And I love that so much, because it's just like, I don't have to work here. Like, I can go find another job. And I think people are so afraid of like, but I have to start over, or I don't know that industry. But it's like, but if it's really not your heart song, if you're really not happy to be here, I want you to do the scary thing and like do the research. You don't have to leave tomorrow. Like, don't leave without a plan. Like, you can stay there, but just start to pack your bags in your mind and start to write down the list of like, I want to go to a new place so I can, be my best and shine my brightest. And it's going to take these things. And when we start thinking about and meditating on those things, it is amazing what can manifest when it's like, somebody just asked me, I was like, I want to be on, or I want to have another opportunity to speak somewhere. And I get an email and somebody says, hey, I was thinking about you. And somebody asked me, if I knew anybody who could speak about XYZ. Hope that works out for you. You didn't have to make the full connection, but I appreciate that you were thinking of me. And all I can think of in my little mind is, I think I spoke that up. I decided that I wanted more things. And somehow the universe said, you know what, Breanna, you can have them. And I am starting to prepare myself for that. So you don't have to leave tomorrow. But I just think that, like you said, we spend way too much time at work to hate every single minute of it. And so it's just, about high time that we start making our lists and figuring out what we need, so we can get to fabulous, because fine is not enough anymore.
Fine is not enough anymore. And I love what you said about manifestation. And sometimes I'll just read the Bible, like, book by book, which I'm doing now. But then other times I kind of thumb through and get like a passage of the day to see where my hand lands. And the other day I landed on, I want to say it was Mark 11. And I don't remember verbatim what it says, but basically Jesus said to the disciples, if you believe in your heart the things that you say and wish for them and pray for them with the like knowing that they're going to come to pass, you'll have it. And so that is literally manifestation. And so you have to believe that, this job that you're at, this career that you're at, if you don't like it, you can create a better next, but it starts with believing in your own mind that it's possible, and then taking the steps to, empower yourself and put yourself in that position. But it really does start in the mind and knowing, okay, I'm about to manifest this because I believe it so strongly, and I'm going to get to where I want to be. And I think that a lot of times, like you said, we think that it's not possible because we haven't seen it done, or it's scary, so we have to take a leap. But like you said, do your research.
Yeah. And it's also, we think of things like these giant leaps, but it's also incremental, right? It's like, what, I'm not enjoying, like, how it is that this meeting is going. So I'm going to raise my hand today and I'm going to disrupt this conversation. This is weird. Why are there no people of color in this room? It's like, oh, hush, hush. Like, it's like, it doesn't have to be this monumental, I'm going to start a revolution, in my office, and I'm going to wave a flag. It's like, it's not about that. It could be, but it's also just today I'm deciding that I will, smile more than I did yesterday. Today, I choose to find like the joy in the things that I'm doing. I had a conversation yesterday with a group, and I had them all introduce themselves. And I was like, I just want to know, like, what's your name? What do you do? And what's something that's bringing you joy today? And each person was like, oh, I haven't thought about anything joyous like all morning. I was like, well, we need to change that. Like, it's a mindset shift to just say, I'm thinking about work differently. I'm looking for the opportunities for to make a change. I'm looking for the ways that I can show up differently. Even if I'm working by myself at home, there are things that I did yesterday that I might want to continue. Like, what's my start, stop, and continue for this next day? I'm going to stop complaining about the work that I'm doing. I'm going to start researching new opportunities. I'm going to continue showing up the very best that I can while I'm unhappy with the situation that I'm in. Like, whatever it is that your start, stop, continue is, but it's not going to get better. Whatever, it's not going to get better until you make the decision that you want it to be better, and then commit to actively making choices for things to change. And for some, that is, I'm going to stay in the role that I'm in because, the money is good. It's a good commute. It's no commute. I like the benefits, whatever, but I don't like how I feel about this place. So I'm going to change how it is that I have conversations. And for some, it's, I hate this place. I need to leave. So I'm going to start preparing a plan for me to be able to leave.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And everyone is going to go over and start following you, stop doubting themselves, and continue on their pathway to success. So where do people find you? We want your social media handles, your website, all of the things, so that we can connect and have confidence in the boardroom.
Well, I appreciate that so much. I would love for people to get in touch with me in, we'll say, 3 different ways. So my website is www.therefiningco.com. My LinkedIn is, you can just go to LinkedIn and search The Refining Company, and then you can follow my page there. And then on Instagram, I'm at The Refining_company. And every Monday I do a Mindset Monday mantra to get our week started well, to think about how do we develop our confidence, and really just like, show up better, at work. So I love when people follow on Instagram to be able to, share that message and to challenge themselves to be more confident in the office. So, and through my website, you could absolutely reach out to me if you want to talk some more. Would always love to have this conversation with individuals and groups. So thank you so much.
And thank you for joining Confidence Conversations. It's been a blast.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Jocelyn.
See you soon.